So the next video in the series, we're going to do a spin-off of a rabbit fricassee. We're going to do it with squirrel because that's what we have in the freezer. It's thawed out, looking good. We have a stamped steel fry pan that we've seasoned in another video in the hearth. We have a variety of seasonings, some farm fresh eggs that we have. We have 13 chickens here on the homestead. They've been doing pretty well. A little lean throughout this winter. It's snowing pretty good today, but we still get eggs. We have a whole bowl of them, and don't mind the 18th century Cuisinart coffee maker. But some eggs, some breadcrumbs, and we're going to fry the squirrel up again as a fricassee. The recipe from Hannah Glass is a rabbit fricassee, but again we're going to do squirrel. So let's get to it. So we'll put these spices off to the side for a minute. We have a little bit of flour there as well. Eggs, what have you. So we're going to take our squirrel, and again we have to process the squirrel down into manageable pieces. And again, I'm not a butcher by trade, but I'm a butcher apprentice of a year, call it 2 years, whatever you want. Alright, so first, obviously, we have to whisk up our eggs. Good. Then, we're going to mix up our dry ingredients. And the recipe doesn't really call for it to be done this way, but that's what we're going to do. Not that. So breadcrumbs, some fresh ground pepper. We'll save some of that and add it to our thyme. Some salt as well. We'll do half of that, and again into the thyme. Nutmeg, obviously, wouldn't be an 18th century recipe without nutmeg, so we'll do half of that, again into the thyme. We'll mix that up with our hands. So the recipe in itself didn't call for this step, but just because I've been cooking for a couple minutes, this is what I'm going to do. So we have some flour here. We could have added our spices to that, hence or vice versa, the breadcrumbs. But first thing we're going to do is dip our meat into the flour. Again, this is where it differs from the recipe itself. Knock that back down. So we'll dip that into the flour, then the egg, then the breadcrumbs with that seasoning in it. Looks way better than it would if you just dipped it in the egg. So we'll repeat with the rest and the flour and the egg, breadcrumbs. It already smells so good, and it's not even cooked yet. Good. So again, I'm going to drag some of those coals out. Don't really need to cook on the fire. Good little divot there in the granite. My pup in the nook trying to get some. So we'll get our pan on that. Add some butter. And we'll add our breaded squirrel for our squirrel fricassee. It smells so good in my house, and I don't know if it's the herbs and everything we did at the table, but I can definitely smell it. It smells really good. So already, just by the coals, the butter's melting very, very quickly. We're just going to get a squirrel in there, brown that off. Is what we're trying to do. And perhaps, well, this pan might not be big enough, but we'll squeeze it in. So we're going to brown that, and we'll flip it as needed. We'll add the rest of our ingredients. Like I said, it smells amazing in the house right now. So lastly, we have our butter, flour, our seasonings. So we're going to roll our butter in the seasoning first. Nutmeg, salt, pepper, thyme. Then in some flour. So I'll add that to the pan along with some sack, which is white wine, and some gravy. Just a touch more than brown, but it's alright. And again, we'll add some sack to that. Some brown gravy. Then it calls for some mushrooms. And our butter that was rolled in those spices and the flour. So we'll get that in there as well. Probably 30 minutes on this because we have the juices in there now with the sack, which is white wine again, the brown gravy, the mushrooms. So we're going to let that simmer for about 30 minutes and we'll see what that looks like. Stir this in a little bit. Can't wait to tuck into this. It smells so good. My pup. Alright, so that's thickened up amazingly. It smells so good. Fire's died down. There's one log in the back. So let's plate this up. Put my glove on. Pick that up. And go to the table. Smells so good. Again, this was a rabbit fricassee recipe. Again, cooked on the coals in the hearth. Recipes vary, as I've said throughout. I've posted some Instagram stuff to date, but generally, unless you were well-to-do, you didn't have a cookbook, certainly females of the time would have had this information passed on to them through the generations. Certainly the long hunter would have used what he had as far as ingredients go. So this is a little more in depth, reminiscent of a recipe from a cookbook. Again, this would have been rabbit. We use squirrel because that's what we had, and it smells amazing. So I got some crusted bread here. Oh, that brown gravy. That ball of butter with the flour and the spices certainly thicken things up, as you can see. Let's see how the squirrel is. I would be inclined to just pick this up with my hands and eat it. And I may just do that. But so, another phenomenon of the time is that they ate a couple little bits in there. I'll give them a nook. Come here, bud. Oh, come on. Camera shy at the moment. So yeah, they would have, in the time, eaten with the fat portion of the knife, which in today's time would have been more like a butter knife. This one's fairly sharp on the other edge, but there's such a wide girth there that I can push the food onto that and eat it with no problem. And then another piece of that bread. There he is. Come on, up. Good boy, Nanook. There's my boy. So unfortunately, Sarge, my other shepherd, 10 years old, passed away on Valentine's Day nonetheless. And he was still alive when I woke up and greeted him in the morning, and after I got out of the shower, not so much. So here's the new guy, the Nook, in the Nook of the North. Good boy. and he is 3 months old right now. And he's a pain in the rear end, but all in due time. What's up, buddy? Another piece of this bread. Look. Up. Good boy. What do you think of that nutmeg, bro? Cheers, guys.